Gender based violence. The term GBV is used to distinguish violence that targets individuals or groups on the basis of the gender from the other forms of violence by individuals and collectivities. It includes act as a result in or is likely to result in the physical, sexual, or the psychological harm. A threat of such as coercion and arbitrary deprivation of liberty are also forms of gender-based violence. Such gender-based violence might occur within the family in the community during peace times. Or times of conflict or by state agents. It may be perpetrated by the family members, acquaintances, strangers, or the intimate partners, including husbands. While violence is a traumatic experience for anyone, man, woman, or child, gender based violence is predominantly inflicted by men. Inflicted by men. On women and girls by reasons for their gender. It impacts women's dignity, security, sexuality, reproductive capacity, and their right to control over their own body autonomy. Apart from its overarching impact on the physical and mental health of women, gender based violences stems for the power inequality between men and women exacerbated by socio-economic by socio-economic culture and the structural inequalities. A thin line of distinction exists between gender-based violence and the violence against women, though the two terms are often conflated and used interchangeably, though the VAW includes any act of GBV. Any acts of GBV against women and girls. The term gender based violence is acknowledges the gender dimension of the woman both from the perspective of perpetrators as well as victims. GBV is a term that is used to distinguish violence that targets individuals or group of individuals on the basis of the gender from other forms of violence by individuals and groups. Such gender based violence might occur within the family, in the community during peace times or times of conflict. GBV and reinforces inequities between men and women and comprises the health, dignity, security, and autonomy of the victims. Men and boys too are sometimes targeted for gender based violences. Through the extent to which the GBV impacts them is not clearly known. The UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against on violence against women has categorized forms of violence against women into violence within the family, violence in the community, and violence perpetrated condoned by the state. Using these broad forms, violence against women in India can be further desegregated. Violence in the family, violence in community, violence perpetrated or condoned by the state, such as domestic violence, sexual abuse of children in household or related violence, rape, and incestual rape by family. Abortions, female infanticide, female genital mutilation, and other traditional practices that are harmful. Violence in the community, including rape, sexual abuse, sexual harassment at workplace, and other public places, acid throwing, witch hunting, sati, honor crimes, trafficking in women, acid throwing, witch hunting, and the children, Adivasi, and the Dalit women, violence perpetrated or condoned by the state, including custodial rapes. Torture and killing, gender-based violence in militarized context, violence against women, migrant workers, refugees, and internally displaced persons, communal violence, and the other extents of mass crimes. These categories of violence against women are not watertight compartments. Some types of violence against women fall under more than one category. The three categories of violence against women are also interrelated and reinforce each other to subvert and subjugate women's enjoyment of the human rights. Gender based violence has been shrouded by a culture of silence and tolerance for a long time. The magnitude of gender based violence in India is indicated by the statistics derived from the National CR Bureau, which is the NCRB, Government of India. These statistics indicate that in among all registered cases of serious crime against women, the largest share, 36%, was on the domestic, which is cruelty by the husbands and the relatives. The next largest share was assault on women with intent to outrage her modesty. The report also said there was a gradual increase in crime figures with major increases in rape, kidnapping, and abduction, and assault on women with an intent to outrage their modesty. The data on the rape suggests younger women continued to bear the burnt into 2014. Almost 44% of all the victims were in the age group of 18 to 30 years, whereas one in every 100 victims was under 60 years of age. Historically, women have been perceived as the repositories of the chastity, virginity, modesty, and honor. Patriarchal control over women, including through sexual, have been exercised and justified in the name of protecting the honor of the family community. This notion has led to the targeting of the woman's body through sexual violence to shame and subjugate the woman, her family, and her community. Equality, this has served to justify the regulation of women's freedom, choices, and the imposition of the dress code. Sexual violence and rape are tools by which power is exercised to maintain an unequal status quo in society that privileges men over women. This ideology shapes the structure of the family. It combines with the casteism and communalism to produce subordination of the one community by another. Though rape and the other forms of sexual violence have been rampant and are on the increase, murder of a young woman on a moving bus in December 12, this led to a law reforms on the rape and other dowry-related deaths and harassments. Many of these deaths and harassments go unreported and classified under deceptive provisions such as accidental deaths and dowry-motivated killing in October 2012. The shot that was a Pravartika Gupta, 25-year-old technology graduate who was burned to death in her bedroom along with a 13-month-old child. The young mother and child were killed by her husband and in-laws over a dowry dispute. The woman's parents had agreed to pay 10 lakh and a Honda car for the husband parents, and they were struggling to make the payment. The husband's family has allegedly demanded the purchase for a flat for them. The law related to Dowry Prohibition Act 1961 has been strengthened for this reason. Additionally, Section 498A and the Section 304B of the Indian Penal Code help to address issues of the dowry harassment and the dowry motivated murder, respectively. Domestic violence. The key findings of NFHS 3 on domestic violence, which interviewed 1,25,000 across 28 states and national capital. Incidents and categories, injuries, cause, correlation between violence and years of marriage, seeking help, perception among women. Trafficking. India is a source and transmit point for women and girls trafficked to other countries as well as major destination for trafficked women and girls. The forced labor of an estimated 20 to 65 million citizens constitutes India's largest trafficking problem. India remains the main receiving country in the South Asian region for victim survivors of the trafficking, and with only 10% taking place across the international border, and the most disadvantaged social economic strata, low castes, are most vulnerable. Acid attacks against the adolescent girls and young women in India have been regularly reported in the media, increasingly so in recent years. The CSAAA Compassion and Struggle Against Acid Attacks, a civil society network, has compiled a list of 56 cases in Karnataka alone between 1999 and 2007, according to Acid Survivors Foundation India. Acid violence cases in India could range between 100 to 500 a year. They were recognized as specific offences in the IPC in 2013 under sections 3 to 6A and B of the Indian Penal Code. Topped her college and was aspiring to be a professor someday. Within a year of that triumph, her life changed. Three men whose advances she had been spooning for a while threw acid on her. Within a 72% once she lost her eyesight and her face and body were disfigured. In 2014, Sonali, her family continued struggling for justice and the medical treatment. 40-year-old married man and an 18-year-old boy. Two of her attackers were convicted for 9 years, which was reduced to the 4 years on appeal. Sex selective abortions, honor crimes, and the National Crime Record Bureau, the protection of women for domestic violence. For the honor crimes are directed mostly at the young women and girls, but also young couples who choose intercaste and interreligious marriages.